Welcome to Your American Dream. I'm Anisha Jennings, and today we're exploring a story of incredible resilience with Janete Parente, whose journey from Brazil's dirt roads to American entrepreneurship proves that determination can pave any path. Hi, Janet. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to have you.
Hi, Anisha. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I know you for a long time. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk to you about my story.
I love it. So, Janet is the author of The Dirt Road, which talks about your life story from Brazil to America. And reading that book has inspired me so much. And again, I feel like I know you already. So, however, for our listeners, until they can get to the book, please tell us about your journey from Brazil to here, and now being the founder of HB Medical Billing and also an author.
Okay, so I'm Janete Teixeira-Parente. I was born and raised in South Brazil in a very small community of, at the time, about, I would say, 100 people. So growing up, I knew, everybody by, their names and their family members. And nowadays is not that big of the community, but it's much bigger than 100 people. And I now don't know, many people that live there anymore because, I'm here. And then, those families had their kids and kids have had kids and, so it's still the same road, same dirt road as is on my book. Still the same community. Um, yeah, so my journey to from that dirt road to America, it's kind of interesting one. First, the year before I came to America, I got a kind of a free ticket to Disney. So it's a long story. I don't know if I can share the story.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I was employed by Siemens Telecommunication. And at the same building, they had a hair salon. So I started, doing my hair with this one lady for, a couple of months, I would say. And then one day she said, she told me, my daughter got a ticket to Disney in one of those radio shows. It was some raffle or something like that. So she said, my daughter got a ticket. It's a ticket for her and one more guest, and the Disney tickets for all the parks are included, and the hotel and everything. So she said, but my daughter does not have money to travel. She said, if you want to go with her, you have the ticket, you have the hotel and the Disney tickets and everything. All you have to do is give me like $200 so she can bring with her. I'm like, deal. And at the time, I didn't have passport yet, so but it was really easy. Like 25 years, 27 years ago, was easier to get a visa. So all I did was to go get my passport, gave to a travel agency, and then she did all the paperwork and everything, sent it to the American consulate, and I got my visa. And then like a month later, we traveled to Disney. It was funny to get to Disney, and we had somebody waiting for us at the airport with their names, holding it. It was kind of fun. But then, as I stayed for a week in America, I was like, it's nice to be here, visiting, but I don't want to live here. I don't know. I didn't have that. I'm like, yeah, my life is in Brazil, and I'll be there for the rest of my life. That's what I thought. So, so I went back and then continue working at Siemens, and it just go back a little bit in Brazil. English is a requirement in school from fifth grade to high school. At the time, you wouldn't like if you didn't have a good grades, you still pass because it was a requirement, but you couldn't fail because of English, but you had to take the class. But for me, English was like, I don't like it. I don't need to learn it. So I never really learned the language. So fast forward, I'm work at Siemens, an international company. And if I want to advance in my career, I had to speak English fluently. So I knew that, and I also knew that I wanted certain position in that department. I had started as an intern during my college years, and I knew that one day I want to be able to be the manager of that department. So the day came where I had that opportunity, but guess what? I didn't speak English. So my manager came to me and said, "You have all the qualifications. I had finished my master's degree and everything." And but he said, "Unfortunately, I cannot give you this opportunity because you don't speak English."
Oh,
I was devastated. I was like heartbroken. I'm like, no, I worked so hard for this, and now I cannot get this position just because I don't speak English. But that was the requirement, and there was nothing I could do about it. But I was kind of upset for a moment. And then I was like, you know what? I am going to the United States. I'm going there. I am going to learn the language. I'm going to come back here, and I will never miss an opportunity because I don't speak English. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I do not want to work at Siemens anymore. I want to work for Volvo. For what reason? I don't know. I just wanted to get a job at a Volvo. So, and then a friend of mine was coming to the United States to reunite with her family. And we made the plans that she would come. And then a month later, after I closed all my affairs and pay bills and stuff, so I would come after. And that's what I did. And my initial plan was just come here for a year, learn the language, and then just go back. But we have a plan, and God has another one. And certainly his plan is much better than mine. I know that for a fact. And here I am 25 years later speaking to you.
yes, amazing, amazing. So your story, I'm just so speechless listening and reading your book. So for our listeners, I know we went directly to Siemens and came to US, but there's a lot before that happened. And especially like how God has placed people in your life that now you are where you are. But it wasn't so your entire life. You went through so much struggles. You went through a big family, poverty, no electricity. So tell us briefly about all of those challenges. And, I'm amazed by your resilience and your not wanting to quit ever attitude. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my childhood was a little challenging, not having electricity, running water. I am one of 11. I'm the 31 in the family. I am 19 years older than the youngest one. And growing up in a house that, it was not a house, it was a barn with no room, everybody together. We just had a room for my father and my mom, and then another room for me and my siblings, and then what we would call a kitchen, but it was not really kitchen because we had absolutely nothing. We didn't even have forks and knives and and plates. We took turns to eat. Our water glass was from things that my father would buy from the supermarket that would come in a can. So we would use that as a water glass. And it was really challenging, but my father, even though he couldn't afford to give us, pay for our education, he always told us that he admired being educated. So he would go to the courthouse sometimes to drive somebody at the courthouse, and he would get home and he would say how much he admired those lawyers coming in and out of the courthouse. And he would say something, that's what it is to get educated. And that always resonated with me. I'm like, I want to get educated. I want to be that person that will open doors. Even though he couldn't pay for education, he told us, if you can make it happen, just do it and be somebody. And unfortunately, he didn't live longer to see many of my accomplishments, but I'm sure that he's very proud of the person I became.
Amen. Yeah, it's just, again, I'm just so speechless here because it's just such an amazing story. And to see everything that you've gone through, I just feel like uh, you were right there with me, narrating it to me in the book. So I highly recommend all my listeners to please read Janette's book. It's amazing. So
Thank you.
I know your father was like a big role model for you, and you had the best and a few challenges with him as well. I also, from your book, I've seen how you have had that attitude of, I want to do this. I want to be better. I want to provide a good life for my family. How did that come to be for you? And when you were not exposed to anything in the world, like you did not have TV, and from where you were not exposed to anything that you knew about the outside world. So where did that passion for, I want to be in an office, I want to be behind a desk, I want to dress like this, I want glasses. How did all of that happen?
Yeah, as you mentioned, my father was my role model, but it was also challenging, being in a household with an alcoholic father. It was a disease. It was really, really hard to look at the man that inspired me to be a better person, but at the same time to see that man that would be a different person just with the sip of alcohol. And answering your question, I think because I heard my father always telling how much he admired those people that were educated, those lawyers, and I thought, oh, I want to be like that person. Then I didn't know who those person were, but in my mind I was like, I want to get educated, I want to be like that person, whomever that person is. And plus, my father, even though he was a simple man, he was always learning something new on his own. He learned how to be a mechanic just studying on his own. He read the Bible, as I mentioned in the book, and all those things instilled on me the desire to learn more. And that's how I. And then once I started going to school in the what we call city. I was exposed to other books, and then different people and friends, and so I think and then teachers. I have a teacher that I mentioned in the book that he inspired me. I want also to be like him. He taught our classes in geography and history without books. He knew everything, and he still does to this day. And when I saw him teaching, and as a child, I wanted to be like him. I thought one day when I work in the office and I have my eyeglass, my cigarette, which the cigarette that I had never happened, thank God.
Yes.
I want to be like him. I want to know things like without the book. I want to learn something and just be in my head. That was my initial thought. And then as I became an entrepreneur, I kind of have this. I know a lot of stuff just in my head. My employees say that I have a mind of an elephant
Wow.
because
Wow.
I remember.
That's amazing though, but because I was gonna say I've seen, but I've read, you had so many good friends in your life, and I'm so amazed at the friendship and the helpful nature and the helping attitude that they all had, and these families who sort of adopted you and took you in, and all of that. That is amazing. So when you came to the US, what were the culture shocks that you experienced?
First was the food, but not actually the American food itself. I never liked the fast food, so it was not a fast food, but actually the taste of the food that I was. For example, in Brazil we eat lots of rice and beans and meat, and those tasted so different to me that at some point I was thinking that I was going to quit eating those those food. But then little by little, I got used to it, and then now it's the opposite. When I go home, I think in there it tastes different. And another thing was the actual lifestyle. You know,
Mhm.
the how the families get together basically in the holidays here, and the opposite in Brazil, we are together with family like all the time. Yeah, that was like a culture shock, but I mean, I don't. It's not a bad one. It was just, I was not used to it. Yeah, and one of the things that was different for me
Mhm.
was in Brazil, if you give a gift, you expect that person to open the gift in front of you. And then
Yeah.
that person says thank you, and it's just that's it. You got your thank you, and you're good. And here, the person does not open your gift in front of you, and then sends you a thank you card. That was like something very unique to me, and I got,
Yeah.
took some time for me to get used to it, but now I think I'm more American than Brazilian in certain ways. So I'm so used to it. Like I do what Americans do.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned about your about the canned food joke that
Yeah.
you and your husband have. That's interesting. So, has it changed now, or do people still in Brazil think that American
No, still in
canned
Brazil,
food?
many people. I think because I'm going to say because it's a very small town. Still, people come to us and ask if we eat. Is that true that in America you only eat from cans, only canned foods? I'm like, no, we have everything. My husband gets so mad. He gets his phone and he shows, no, we have this, we have that. But in our household, there's a joke here when there are things that we need like a can of something. So
Mhm.
I love to cook. So I sometimes on my recipes I need something from a can, and then we yell at each other. Don't tell Brazilian people that you're we eating from a can. Yeah.
So, how did you navigate cultural differences in your business?
I find that American people are very generous, and most of my clients are American, and I feel like immigrants to immigrants, not so much. Had not now, but I had one client that was not born here, so he treated me a little different, which I didn't appreciate it. But
Mhm.
in general, Americans are very generous, and when they trust you, they help you, they are loyal to you, and so I didn't experience much of the culture shock.
So, what inspired you to start HB Medical Billing? What does HB stand for?
Well, no, it's just two words that I picked. Nothing like I like
Okay.
those two words, two letters, let's say two letters, and I
Mhm.
started with that. So I basically went from OR to the office. Because when I was here about less than a year, I was here and I was working with a family, and I had a health emergency, and I ended up going to the hospital, and I met this kind of family of doctors that they gave me an opportunity to work in their house, and they laid in their office, and I love to work with numbers, and first I wanted to try to be a medical assistant, so I went to school for that. But when we started going to the labs and drawing blood and doing injections, I was like, yes, no, this is not for me. I need something else. So then the university this allowed me to change to medical billing, and then I changed the program, and I did the billing, and I love to work with the billing. I find something that I enjoy doing. It's very stressful. It's at the same time rewarding when you get things done, but it's really a challenging profession to be dealing with insurance, and then the customer service is overseas, and most of overseas employees, I don't think they are well trained to resolve problems here in the United States, and we keep things that it would take 10 minutes, it take hours for us, and in some cases months to resolve,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a headache. I kind of like it, not so much as being in business for 20 years. I'm kind of tired, but I still enjoy doing it. And one of the challenges also, I think it's not only me, but after COVID, most of employees are working from home, and that became a challenge that time, and it's still a challenge today because I'm a very small business, and you have to have that extra time to check and was this done and was that person really working and things like that. It's not easy. I'm still doing it.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised you're still doing it because you're like the Energizer Bunny. You just keep going, and to hear you say that now you're tired of it, that's a lot actually. Because at least knowing you from the book and getting to know you, it's just like I don't know how you keep going, but you're definitely very inspiring. So, how did you learn the complexities of medical billing?
Yeah, so I went to school, as I mentioned before. I went to school, but when I compare what I learned in school and what I learned doing it, it's two different things. I was blessed to have a friend that I met at the doctor's office that taught me everything about the billing, and then I'm always curious to know more. So if I learn something new, I always go and do my own research. And medical billing is once you learn the basic of one specialty, then the other specialties are only what the changes are the coding. The idea of doing the billing, the process, this is the same. So and also every year on October 1st, the ICD, now we are on ICD-10, the International Codes of Disease, changed on the 1st of October. So every year you have new sets of codes. Some are deleted, some new, some stay the same. So you need to keep up to date to the change. And that's something that I always look forward to. I always to know what they change now. And there are codes that, some codes that it's not really code, but the doctor describes something and then we can never find a code. And I always wonder why there is no code for this.
Mhm.
You have them to get something similar. And then, obviously with the approval of the doctor. But yeah, that's how I learned it. And
Amazing.
once you are I think in any business, the more you do, the more you learn and the more you became acquainted with the process of
Absolutely.
everything.
So, what were your biggest challenges in the early days of setting up your business?
The biggest challenge was I only started with my one doctor, the one who believed that I could do, and she was starting her practice too. So I built her first patient, and I had no idea if I was going to get more clients. But she was kind enough to refer me to a friend of hers, and that friend liked the work I did, and then he referred me to another friend, and that's how I grew my business.
Very nice. Very nice. So, how do you build trust with healthcare practitioners?
I'm very loyal. So, and I'm kind of old fashioned. I like to do business in person. Yeah. If we discuss things on the phone, for me, you have to be in person to discuss some issues. And since the beginning, my practice was to go to their office, even if I didn't have anything to do, I would show up. So I'm here. If you need anything, you have any questions, I'm here. So I built that confidence, that relationship, that loyalty with my clients. That it's all my clients, they are 12, 13, 14, and even the one doctor that I started with 20 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So, what's your approach to problem solving in billing?
So the first, we needed to discover why the procedure was denied, because the insurance gives us 10 million reasons not to pay. Their job is not to pay, and my job is to make sure we get paid. Because I tell my employees, it's a cycle. If my doctor doesn't get paid, I don't get paid, and I cannot pay you. So we needed to get that three components together. So it's a cycle. So everybody needs to get paid, so we have to do our job. So when there is a problem, first we need to identify why. It's always a why first. Why this was denied was because something wrong with the policy. Was this not covered? Was this not authorized? There is a lots of reasons. A while ago, I was a member of BNI. I think I mentioned in the book, and I had to do a presentation about my business, and I create a circle, and the circle started with the front desk at the doctor's office. So I had two different circles. One, when everything went perfect. So the front desk did her job. He or she did the job, got the insurance information, entered the computer, verified if the patient needed authorization. Then the doctor saw the patient, did the notes, sent me the codes. I reviewed it, make sure that everything was clean. I sent it to the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse passed it, went to the insurance. The insurance found that the claims was good. The claim was good, no problems. Paid the doctor. There was nothing to bill the patient. The doctor gives back to me. Case closed. The circle closed. Perfect. So now I did a circle that it didn't close as well. So I did the second one was the front desk person was on social media at the time. She got the insurance information, so did not enter the correct information in the computer. The doctor saw the patient, did his notes, did everything correctly, did the coding, sent it to me. I sent it to the insurance. When I got to the clearinghouse, oh, the ID number is incorrect. So now I have to go back to the front desk person and inquire, what do you have a copy of the card? Did you get a copy of the card? Then for some reason she forgot or he forgot to get it. So then either she calls the patient or I call the patient to find out the ID number. So then the cycle breaks, and then it's another problem because until you find out the correct information, and sometimes the patient is not available, and then you have to wait. And then if you call from the billing office, normally people don't answer calls because they think you want to collect money. Yeah. So then you have to wait for the doctor's office to call, and then again they are busy with other things that it's not a priority. That stays on the side. That goes by, time flies, and then when you see, the doctor didn't get paid. So that's very important for whomever works at the front desk to get the correct information, because when it gets to the billing, it needs to be correct.
Wow, that's a long process. And
yeah, it's a long process. Yeah,
it can get frustrating. So what inspired you to write The Dirt Road?
So I started with the BNI. As I mentioned, I was a member of the BNI, Business Network International. And since I was the newest member, I had to tell my story. And every time I was telling my story to one of the members, I thought about my own family, my own nephews and nieces. So every time I met with somebody, I thought to myself, here I am telling my story to a stranger, a person that I met yesterday or a week before, a month before. But my own nephews and nieces only know the aunt that arrives in Brazil with suitcase of gifts. And I didn't want them to know me just for the gifts. I wanted them to know what took place in my life. And I want them to learn the determination, the resilience, the faith, and learn that when you have something that I learned with my father, I want to pass to them. My father always taught us that no matter how little you have, you can always share. And I also want my siblings to know that because I can now to give them gifts, it's because I am sharing with them. I'm not like just giving to them. I'm sharing what I have to them, and I want them to learn the feeling of sharing what you have, no matter how little you have. And that's why I started writing. First, I thought it was I'm just going to write for them, and then became a book, and here we are.
It's a very beautiful book, very inspiring. I don't know how many times I've used the word inspiring.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But so has your family read the book yet? What do they think of it?
Yeah, so the Portuguese version was released in Brazil in May of 2024. It was interesting because I wanted the English version to be released first. But again, I have a plan and God has a different one for me. And he wins all the time. He wins all the time. When I came, I have to backtrack a little bit. When I came to the United States and I met some of my Brazilian friends, and they would say, how do I say this in English? He would say a random Portuguese word. And I would think, come on, you were born in Brazil and you don't know this word in Portuguese? But they said, no, I don't remember. So fast forward, I decided to write my story, and I wanted to write in Portuguese first, but I would start in Portuguese and then I would mix with English. So it was like 20% Portuguese and then the rest was in English. So then I decided to then switch, write in English first and then translate to Portuguese. So that's what I did. But then I worked with a company in Brazil and they were really fast. They worked in the book like in 3 months, they had the book done. And I had a trip to Brazil in May. I was going to a wedding in and the publishing company knew that I was going to Brazil. Literally 2 weeks before I was leaving, my one of my brothers called me and said, "Guess what? Your books arrived." I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yes, your books are here." I'm like, "No, you're kidding me." He said, "Let's do a FaceTime." So we did FaceTime. He showed me, "Your book is here. Your book is here."
It's
So then it was like that, running around to have a book signing event with everybody from my community, and it was amazing. I had like 250 people at the book signing.
wow.
Yeah. And so then the English version delayed a little bit, and then I saw a few things in the Portuguese book that I could make it better in the English version, and I did, and I'm glad that I did, and I'm glad it worked that way.
Very nice. So
Yeah.
what did your family think about it?
They were extremely proud. Like they were like beyond emotional when they saw the book, and then they read, and then they all cried because they were really emotional, because it's not only my story but our story.
Yes.
Yeah, so no, the challenge of the youngest ones don't know, they didn't know, or they know very little what my oldest sister and some of my siblings went through when we were growing up. So that was very emotional to them too, to really know that the suffering that we had, and the challenge that we faced with my father being alcoholic. And so it was emotional, but it was rewarding to see everybody reading.
Absolutely. So, what about your extended family, the ones who married into your family, when they read the story and learned about the entire journey of your family? What did they think?
Some of them were very surprised, because we don't talk. I mean, it's different now, but we don't talk how that was like that, and here and there, but they didn't know the details, so they were really surprised. Yeah. And then my sister-in-law said, "Oh, I'll make sure that my child will know it," because some of the children are still young, so they will read this book in a few years from now. But my
Yes.
sister-in-law said, "I'll make sure that they will read it."
That's amazing. I love how your family is so tight-knit. It's just a very sweet family, and blessings to your family, really. You guys
Thank you.
are very sweet. I feel like I already know your
Yeah,
family too.
yeah, we are very close. Like I don't myself don't remember ever having a fight with my siblings.
Wow.
Yeah, I know between them here and there's some little fighting, but me never had a fight with any of my siblings.
Wow. So, did your sister get to come to the US, or was it only your mom? Because I know you mentioned in the book there were visa issues, and then it was just your mom who came here. And did your sister get to come?
My younger sister just came last August of 2024. Yes, her
Wow.
and her husband. And now in 2025, one of my brothers and his wife and his daughter are coming. Hopefully
Oh
in
my
July of
goodness.
2025. Yes.
That's amazing. That's
Yes.
amazing. So, how has sharing your story impacted others?
It's been amazing. I am like so grateful beyond words. Like I receive a message from people that I don't know, and they said, "Oh, I read your book." It was it was like touching, because I my initial goal was to inspire my nephews and nieces, and now my little words are being read from so many people, and they're saying they're inspired. And if I help one person that is out there going through some struggles, and come across my book and read my story, and I help that person to get better to whatever situation he or she might be, I think it will be a blessing.
Amen. Amen. You've definitely blessed me with your life
Oh, thank
story and
you.
with your book. It's just it's very amazing to see how God works in your life, and
Yes, it
whatever,
does.
like you said that we have different plans, but God has completely different plans, and to see his work in your life, it's just truly amazing. So, what legacy do you hope to leave?
I don't want ever anybody think that, I came to the United States and I was a business owner and I wrote the book, and I want people to remember me because of my heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to ever remember me for the things, the car, the house, the book, the no. This is not. I mean, it's important because you need it for your survival, but what's important is your heart. What you do to others to lift other people from whatever situation they are. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's financial. That's what I want people to remember me, that I was a kind person. And I try every day to be kind to other people around me. And sometimes kindness doesn't need it to be like giving money to somebody, or sometimes just open the door for an old person that comes to a store and helping somebody with the grocery bags in the supermarket. Those little things that counts, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, you definitely have a very pure heart. And I'm so blessed and fortunate to have met you and
Thank you.
come across your book. And thank you for sharing your book with us and, just sharing your story, basically. So, you have experienced tremendous loss in your life as well. How has that affected your life? I know that through your book, you've mentioned it was very devastating. How would you help someone who is going through the similar situation? What would be your piece of advice to someone who is going through loss in their life or who's going through very difficult situations? What would be your piece of advice?
Grieving is a process, and there is nothing that you can say to anybody when that person is grieving. In the grieving process, you go through different phases. You go through in my case, the madness, why this happened to me, especially with somebody so young like my brother was. So
Yeah,
you go to that process of you're mad at the world, you're mad at God, you don't nothing that there is nothing that somebody can tell you that is going to get that madness away at that moment. And then you go through the second phase that the movie keeps playing in your mind, like the memories and the things that you did and the things that you didn't do. And um, and the one thing that I would say for anyone right now, that if you have a loved one that you love it, just embrace that person, say you love that person every single day, because you don't know what a second after this will go. And you have to give yourself time, because everything is in life is time. Only time tells you, what to do, where to go, and how to heal your heart. Else time heals everything. And then there is a God that He knows you the day you're born and the days you have to go, and you have to make peace with God. Once you're in peace with God, then you let go. But you have to go through the process. It's a process, and only when you're going through, that you know how it is.
absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think there's going to be one person who has dry eyes after reading your book, but it's just such a beautiful story. You also mentioned about your husband's depression and the difficult time you had. And given today's world, and especially after COVID and people dealing with so much mental illness and health issues, and what would be your advice on how to navigate the situation?
The depression is a disease also, the same as alcohol is a disease. Depression is a disease. Depression needs medication, and also a care of somebody that can just be a support for that person. In my husband's case, the medication didn't work. The chemistry in our body are unique for every individual, and there are certain medications that they just don't work. And you have to go through the process of getting medication and then therapy, talk therapy, and also be patient. And I know, because I've been through this. The person who's taking care of a depressed one is the one who suffers a lot too, because you were there. You don't know what's going through in that person's mind. And there is nothing that is, it's almost like a grieving process. There is nothing you can say to that person because there is not, you see around that there is nothing wrong and that person is still crying like for months and you don't know what to do, but you have to be there. You have to be that support because that person needs to know that he or she is not alone. That person will hold his or her hand and we'll be there, we'll take care of, and we'll understand. The most important, understand. Sometimes you don't understand, but you need to like to make sure you understand that situation at that moment for that person, because that is very important.
Thank you for sharing that. So what advice would you give to new immigrants who are coming to the country and, who want to start a business or who have already been in the country and want to start a business? What would be your advice, especially after this beautiful journey that you've had and you've been in business for 20 years? How can you support them?
First, you need to learn the language. I know this country gives you it's a land of free, and you are here. You have your freedom to speak your language, but the English language is the language of this country. So you need to learn the language, and then whatever you want to do. Also, this country does not discriminate you. Whatever you want to do, you can be anybody, anything you want to be, but you have to get educated in whatever profession you want. Medical billing, get educated in medical billing. You want to be a nurse, get education in nursing. You want to be a construction, get educated in construction, how to build a house. So get your education, learn how to do things, because America will celebrate your success.
So if there's one thing you could have done differently in your life, I don't know if there is, but is there a thing that you would do differently, and what would it be?
Well, I think I would have learned English before. I think if I was to give myself an advice, would it be learn the language, learn English. Like for me in school was like, I'm never gonna need this. So I wanted math, chemistry, and physics. That's was the thing, were those subjects that I liked it. So if there was one thing that I would say, learn English and speak English well. And I see my some of my Brazilian friends that they speak English with no accent, and they learned in Brazil when they were kids. So had I done that before, I would not have an accent. I would speak English much better than I do now. I mean, I got used to my accent now, but at the beginning I didn't like it. I'm like, oh, I have this accent. But now I embrace my accent. There is nothing I can do about it. But if I was to give an advice to my young self, would be learn English.
Well, I love your accent, and I'm sure there's
you.
other people who would agree with me. I know my mother-in-law loves accents, so she would agree with me. So how do you define success now versus when you started?
So success is you be able to do things that you like. Like success is, it's good to have financial success. I'm not diminishing that. It's good to when I see my life when I didn't have anything, I am able to afford things that I want. But success is to wake up every day and being healthy and knowing that you have a family that you love, friends that you can count on, people that you work with that are loyal to you. I think for me, that's the success.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. So if somebody wants to grab a copy of your book, where is your book available?
So my father taught me how to share. He, in his own words, he would say, no matter how little you have, you can now share with somebody. So in his memory, I'll be sharing the proceedings of this book with a charity from my hometown called Comitê da Fome e Moradia, which means the stopping the hungry and housing people. The Portuguese version was donated, and so will be the English version. If you like to help with the cause, just go ahead and order my book from Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, or Books A Million, and you'll be helping the charity of my heart.
So the name of the book again is called The Dirt Road, and please grab a copy. You will not regret this. So if our listeners want to get in touch with you, or they want to learn more about you, learn about medical billing, or want to work with you, what is the best way to reach you?
Well, I am not really a social media person, but I am on Instagram. You can follow me. There is JCTB1971 on Instagram, and I have a website that is on the making, and it's going to be very soon. It's going to be working. Is JaneteParente.com.
Amazing. For our listeners, all this information will be in the show notes. Thank you so much again, Janete. Thank you for making the time to talk to me, and thank you for sharing your amazing story. I can't wait to see what this year brings for you, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks for having me. That was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time too.
As we conclude our powerful conversation with Janete, remember that every road, no matter how humble its beginnings, can lead to success. This is Anisha Jennings reminding you that sometimes the toughest paths can create the strongest leaders. Until next time.